Hello guys, it's Abid. Welcome to my channel. Actually, this is my first video here, and I have basically created this channel for anyone interested in robotics. In fact, I'm a big fan of robotics myself, so I will make sure to go over many state-of-the-art tools used by many robotics practitioners. So stay tuned for new videos twice or three times per week. So let's start. First, I'm going to introduce you to the Linux operating system, which is like Windows, an operating system that you can install and use on your machine. And actually, Linux is not that recent. It was actually released back in the early 90s. And it has many functionalities and unique features that are very useful. And Linux has many distributions. You can think of these as versions of the operating system, and each distribution has its own functionalities. You have Ubuntu and its many softwares like the ROS, the Robot Operating System, which is used for many robotics application, and we will go over this software later on. And in addition to many other softwares and functionalities like the Gazebo simulator for simulating the robot behaviors and etc. And you have per se Kali with its many built-in tools for hacking and penetration testing. And you have many other distributions like Mint, etc. And as I said, here I'm going to introduce you to Ubuntu, mainly for its robotics capabilities. So first, I'm going to show you how to install Ubuntu on your computer. Actually, you can install Ubuntu on your machine using three different ways, as I know. You can install the ISO image of the Ubuntu operating system on a USB, and you can burn this image on the USB and plug in this USB to your computer and operate or use Ubuntu on a live session. Now, what is an ISO image? Let's see. First, let's open up the browser. Here I'm using Firefox. Go to the Ubuntu official website, which is ubuntu.com. And here you go to download. And this is what you need, the Ubuntu desktop. You can either choose the 18.04 version or the other version. You can choose either version, it won't matter. I will choose the 18.04, and the only difference is that this version is supported by Canonical, which is the company that supports Ubuntu for the long run, on the long term, and this is supported by Canonical on the short term, but it really won't make any difference. So let's go with this one. And you will be directed to download the ISO image. Select Save this file. And your file is automatically being downloaded to the downloads directory in your operating system. So I'm gonna cancel it for now because I have already downloaded Ubuntu. And after saving this ISO image, as I said, you can install it or burn it on a USB using many tools. For example, I use the Rufus USB tool, which I will go over later on. Now, I don't recommend this method because if you are planning to use Ubuntu on the long run, this will damage the USB because of the many writing cycles. so I don't recommend it. And also the USB will give you a limited storage relative to its cost and its stability. So what is the other method? What are the other methods? You have the option also to install a virtual machine on your computer. Let's say your computer came with the default Windows environment, just like mine. So you can install many available. There are many available virtual machines. You can download VirtualBox, VMware, etc. And this will allow you to use Ubuntu from or within your original operating system, whether it's Windows or Mac, whether you are using Mac or Windows. And you have the third option, which I recommend and I'm actually using myself, which is you can perform the dual boot process. Now, the dual boot process will give you the ability to boot from any operating system you want. For example, if you install Ubuntu by using the dual process option, then you can boot into Ubuntu or boot into your Windows, if it's your native environment, from the startup of your computer. When you restart or when you start your computer, you can choose either one. So I'm assuming that you are already familiar with the dual boot process, but in any case, I will go over it and to give you some guidance. As usual, in my videos, I prepare a file to guide me through the session. So first, as I said, you need to download the ISO image of the Ubuntu operating system. And then you need to plug in a USB into your computer. And if you are using Windows, I don't know if this is available on Mac, this is called the Rufus USB tool. So if you open this software after downloading it, here the name of your device, your USB device will appear. You will choose the MBR partition for BIOS and UEFI. You keep the file system as default, which is FAT32 for Windows. The cluster size also default. Here you can enter any label you want, check all the boxes, and finally you click on this button and you browse for your downloaded ISO image that we talked about earlier. And then you click start and you give it some time so that Rufus can burn. We say the Rufus will burn your ISO image into the USB. And then you will have a USB that is ready to be used. Now, another step that needs to be done before performing the dual process or the installation of Ubuntu, you need to create a disk partition. Okay, so this Ubuntu system needs some space on your hard disk drive. So how to create this? You enter the following command. You open first your start menu on Windows if you are using Windows, and you enter the following command: disk mgmt .msc. Okay, and then an icon will appear. It's like an application, so you choose it and you will obtain the following. Now in here you choose the C volume, and then you right click here and you choose the shrink volume, and a window will appear where you will specify your shrink volume. And I don't recommend to go below 20 gigabytes. I have used myself 60 gigabytes, and it depends on your future plans. What are you planning to install? What are you planning to do with Ubuntu? So in any case, I won't recommend to go below 20 gigabytes. Okay. Now we have done these two steps. Now we have the USB with the burned ISO image and the free space on our disk. Now you have to restart your computer and enter the BIOS, and this is done by pressing repeatedly F12 just before the appearance of the logo of your computer, whatever is the company that created this computer. And this may change and vary between a machine and another. For example, on my computer, which is Lenovo, I press F12. But if you are using any other type of computers, you may press either F2 or F3, or I don't know. You can read about your machine and how to enter its BIOS. So once you are in the BIOS, you can choose to boot from the USB that is already plugged into your computer. And then you can choose to install Ubuntu, and you will be guided into the installation process of Ubuntu on your computer. And this is a very straightforward task to be done. But I want to give you a note concerning the final step of the installation process. Here, this window will appear as a final step. You can either choose install Ubuntu alongside Windows 10, and everything will be managed by the system, and everything will be easy. And if you have a little bit of experience in memory management and you think that this option will not fit you, does not suit you, then you can choose this option, something else. And you will be directed into a window where you can choose the free space, the free disk space that you have just created. For example, in my case, it was 60 gigabytes of size. And then you have to partition it between a swap area, which is a memory that operates the side by side with the RAM to improve the performance. You can think about it like that. And actually, if you are using a RAM with 6 gigabytes or more on your computer, then I would recommend to specify a swap area of 4 gigabytes. And the rest of the space, you have to allocate it to the root directory, which is specified by the / symbol. And then you click install now, and you wait for the Ubuntu to be installed. And after that, you have to restart your computer, and if you have the option to unplug your USB device, do it. But if you don't have this option, just unplug it from your computer manually, and then you will have the option to choose either to boot from Ubuntu or from Windows. Of course, choose Ubuntu, and you can restart your computer and at any time you want to boot from the other environment that you have already installed on your computer, like Windows or Mac or etc. Of course, I have done this dual boot process, and I have installed Ubuntu. And I will show you, I will give you a quick tour to show you the GUI of the desktop environment of Ubuntu. In fact, on the sign in window, when Ubuntu is first installed, when you first open Ubuntu, on the sign in window, just below the password space, you will have a gearbox, so you can click on it and choose either Ubuntu or Ubuntu on Wayland, which are two different desktop environments. Actually, they are not two different desktop environments. Both use the GNOME Desktop environment, but there's a bit of difference between both. So choose Ubuntu, and it will be chosen actually by default, and sign in. Now, this is, as I said, the GNOME environment, and I really prefer it because it's lightweight and it's simply cool. Of course, there are many other desktop environments that can be installed, like XFCE or many others, but I prefer GNOME. So as you can see here, you have the toolbar. You will have Firefox browser installed by default. you will have Thunderbird Mail, you will have the Nautilus file manager. It's called Nautilus in Ubuntu. You will have LibreOffice, which is the equivalent of Word on Microsoft Office on Windows. You will have the Ubuntu software, and this is actually very similar to the Google Play Store, where you can download any application you want. And here at the bottom, you will have this symbol. If you click on it, it will show you all of your applications, whether you downloaded yourself or the built-in applications that came with the system by default. And let me show you a quick thing. Let's say I have here Google Chrome, which is an application that I have installed myself. And if you right-click on it, you can choose Add to Favorites. And automatically it will appear here on the toolbar, which is called the dock on Ubuntu. And if you want to remove it, you can click on Remove from Favorites and it will be removed. I will keep it for now because I will use it later on. Of course, here you will have the control over the sound of the speaker, of the mic, of the display brightness. Here you will have the Wi-Fi, the power options, and the user options, account settings and logout. And if you press here, of course I will not press it for now, you can choose to restart or turn off your computer. Now, there is an important button that can be used on Ubuntu, which is the super button. On Mac, it is the command button, and if you have a machine that supports Windows as an operating system, you can click on the button with the Windows icon, and you will be directed here. Here you can manage all the opened applications, and you can type directly anything you want to search for. Whether it's installed or not installed. If it's not installed, it will be searched. The system will search for it in Ubuntu software. So let's say I want to search for display. Okay, so as you can see here, I can change everything related to the display. If I click here on this button, I have the settings. Of course, I could have searched for settings and automatically it will direct me to settings. Here are the Wi-Fi options, you have the background, you have the dock, which is the toolbar that I've talked about it. You can choose auto hide on or off, notifications, and you have many other options, power, etc. Now, let me show you the file system of Ubuntu. So if you go to the file manager, the Nautilus file manager, and you go to other locations, you can see that I have already two volumes created on my hard disk drive. You have this volume, which is allocated for the Windows, which is the default environment that came with this computer, and you have the 60 gigabytes of memory that are allocated for the Ubuntu system that I have created using the disk management property. Okay, so if you enter here, you can see that you have the bin directory, which is the directory that contains all the files, the binary files needed to operate and launch all the applications on your system. You have the etc directory where you can find all the configuration files, which are files with the .conf extension, and these are basically text files where you can set many things, many variables inside your system. I will not dive into these right now. And of course you have per se the user directory where you can enter share, and then applications, and here you can find all the applications on your system, and this is a bigger list than the one we saw using this option, if you remember, it gives a lot of more applications. And if you want to create, let's say, a shortcut for one application, here you can click on it, press Ctrl C to copy, and then Ctrl V to paste in the directory where you want the shortcut to be created. Here I have created on desktop. You enter it, trust and launch, and here you go. You can enter it now from your desktop. And if you want, you can delete it at any time and empty the trash. So and you have many other directories. You can feel free to explore them. And as I said, this directory, this space of the memory is taken by Windows. So if I enter here, I can access my Windows environment documents. This is the username, Abu. And here I can find everything, the desktop, the documents, the downloads, everything that I already have on my Windows environment. And if you exit here, as you can see, this symbol appeared on my desktop here because by clicking on this space allocated for my Windows, I have mounted this disk space. So just like a USB, you can right-click and unmount if you want to, if you want this icon to disappear from your desktop. Now you can now navigate in the Ubuntu in the GNOME desktop environment using the GUI, but actually any Linux user will not use the GUI to navigate and control the Ubuntu environment because there is a very important component used by any Linux user, which is the terminal. The terminal will give you direct contact with the kernel of the Linux operating system, whether Ubuntu or many other distributions. So here you have control over everything. You can do pretty much everything that can be done in GUI and more. So here, of course, I have opened this using Ctrl-Alt-T, and if you have the icon here, you can press on it. And let's say you want to open a new window in a new terminal window, and believe me, at a certain point, you will need to use many terminal windows at the same time. So avoid using Ctrl-Alt-T many times, Alt-T, Ctrl-Alt-T, Ctrl-Alt-T, because you will end up with a messy screen with a lot of terminal windows everywhere. So avoid this and stay organized. You can open a new window from the same terminal window. How's that? You can press Ctrl-Shift-T, and here you will have two different windows inside the same terminal window. And you can do that, of course, using the File, a new tab, okay, or Ctrl-Shift-T. Now you have many other options. For example, edit preferences. Here you can change the text appearance, the colors, and many other things. I will keep them as is. Here the view, full screen, or you can change it back into this small window. Here you have the search, for example, let's say Habit, and you hit enter, and then as you can see, it highlighted the word in here. Okay, so you have here the terminal. Let's say this is the character encoding. It has already been set to Unicode UTF-8, and this is pretty much it. Now let's say here when you first download Ubuntu, you will notice that everything is very small on your desktop, much smaller than the icons and the text that is appearing here. Why is that? because when the Ubuntu environment is first installed, the sizing, well, it may be not suitable for your screen, just like what happened with me. And I have actually found a way around this. So what you can do is, you can hit the super button, and then you can search for display. And here you choose display, and then you set the scale to 200%. Of course, it has already been set, but if you are on the 100, you can choose the 200, and an apply icon will appear here, so choose it and save your changes. Now, of course, you can read somewhere that you can adjust the screen sizing of Ubuntu by logging in with Ubuntu on Wayland, that I talked about it earlier, and you can enter a certain command line, a certain piece of code, and you can obtain here fractional scaling options. So in addition to those, you can obtain 125% and 150%. But believe me, you will not like this, because if you choose 125 or 150% or whatever these fractional options, you will end up with a blurry screen. So avoid this and choose the 200. When you choose the 200, everything will be big, okay? But how to solve this? So we can solve this using the xrender. The xrender command will allow you to change the size of the screen to control it. So for me, I have found a very good combination between the display and the xrender command to create the perfect size. So let's say xrender, you enter current. So you first need to know the name of your system, and this is done by clicking xrender current. And as you can see in Ubuntu, when you use the terminal, when you use any command on the terminal, you have to separate the arguments with the space. The spacing is very important, okay? So I have entered the 2 dashes current to know the name of my system. In this case, this is the name that appears here in front of connected. So this is the name of interest. So you can copy it, and this is done on the terminal using Ctrl-Shift-C, and the pasting is done using Ctrl-Shift-V, not Ctrl-C and Ctrl-V, okay? This will not work on the terminal. Ctrl-Shift-C to copy, and then let me clear this. Don't worry, I will go over the terminal commands in later videos, but for now, bear with me. xrender, and then I have to specify the output, and it will be EDP1 in my case. On your machine, it may be something different. And then I need to specify the scale, which will be 1.5, 1.5, and I found that this is the most suitable size for my screen. It may be something different with your screen. You have to try different sizes to hit the most suitable one. And of course, nothing will change right now because I have already set this scaling. Okay, so this is how you solve the screen size. The thing is that the Ubuntu system will memorize the 200% that scale that we have specified in the display, but it will not memorize the xrender command. So if you turn off your Ubuntu session and then you came back again, you will find that everything became big again, turned to be big again. So because the xrender command was lost, okay, the Ubuntu system forgot about it. So how to avoid this? Actually, you have to enter this command every single time. There's no work around, there's no other way, okay? So, but I can make this a bit easier. So instead of memorizing this command and entering it in the hard way, hard code it every single time, you can copy this command using Ctrl+Shift+C, and then you have to understand that how the terminal starts up. So when you press Ctrl+Alt+T, or when you click on the terminal icon in here, there's a text file that runs with a code in it. There's a text file with a piece of code in it that runs each time you open up your terminal. Okay, and this is called the bash of the terminal. So as I said, bear with me a little bit. I will go over all these commands later on. So here I will use a text file called nano to access this bash file of the terminal, and I will need to specify the name of this file, which is bash rc. Now if I enter, as you can see, I will have a simple text file with a piece of code in it. And this code, as I said, will run each time you open up your terminal. So here you can paste the code that you just learned, which is xrender, output, etc. And once you put it right here, I have already done that. Every time you open your Ubuntu session, you just press Ctrl+Alt to open the terminal, and automatically this code will be run along with all the other code that you see right here. So you don't have to enter this code again each time. And this is the best way that I have found to adjust the screen size. So let me exit this using Ctrl+X. Of course, I will need to save it first using Ctrl+S, and then I need to exit using Ctrl+X. So now you have set up the Ubuntu system on your machine, and you can navigate in this desktop, the GNOME environment, using the GUI way, and I have introduced you to the terminal, which is a very important component of any Linux system. So that's it for this video. I hope you guys learned from this video, and if you liked it, please hit the like button and support this channel by subscribing for more, and don't forget to click on the notification button to get notified, and I hope to see you guys on the next video.